Next on KPBS Evening Edition, allegations of abuse. What the ACLU of San Diego claims it uncovered about the mistreatment of migrant children in custody. Plus billions of your tax dollars to keep the worst in our society behind bars. But is it money well spent? A local look at what lies ahead for our institutions and the inmates. And top Democratic leaders walk out of the White House during a meeting with the president, the issue that got both sides steaming. KPBS Evening Edition starts now. Good evening. It's Wednesday, October 16th. Thanks for joining us. I'm Maya Trabulsi. $12 billion each year. That's how much of your tax dollars California spends on its prison system. And today in San Diego, legislators gather to discuss prison reform and hear what the public thinks. KPBS reporter Matt Hoffman was there.
State Assembly members were in Chula Vista today talking about future spending for California's prison system.
We are spending now for 125,000 people about $13 billion. So just simply doing quick math, that's about $100,000 per inmate.
State legislators say they intend to spend even more, but want the money to go toward keeping people out of prison.
So we're basically putting together stronger programs with more things for people to do so that they don't come back.
That includes more education and career development programs.
We thought if we just simply reduce population, that in itself would save dollars. But it doesn't if you basically begin to talk about programming and preventing people from coming back.
The State Legislative Analyst Office is projecting inmate population to decline by nearly 7,000 people over the next few years, due in part to new laws. Even though the prisoner population is expected to drop, legislators are hoping by investing more now, taxpayers will save later.
So we're going to have to invest upfront so that when people come back out into their community, that they're prepared to be in the community. While initially it may cost more, we're trying to save money much further down the road.
The legislators say they believe the public will buy into this.
So we need to show taxpayers that the return on investment on these programs are not only worthwhile and they save those individuals, but it's cost effective with the taxpayers' money.
A January audit of California's 36 prisons found that while access to inmate rehabilitation programs has gone up, they are not being fully utilized.
And so what we were asking the department was, how do you measure your success?
The audit found the state had no performance measures for its rehabilitation programs and therefore doesn't know if they're working or not. And that while the inmate population has decreased, recidivism rates have not. Matt Hoffman, KPBS News.
Only Democratic Assembly members attended the hearing. However, they insisted that prison reform is a bipartisan issue in California. Allegations of abuse are being made by minors kept in custody by Border Patrol agents. The claims are based on newly examined documents brought to light by the ACLU of San Diego. KPBS reporter Max Rivlin-Nadler with more on the allegations.
The 35,000 heavily redacted pages were obtained by the American Civil Liberties Union after a lengthy court battle with the Department of Homeland Security over a Freedom of Information Act request. They contain hundreds of instances of minors alleging abuse by Border Patrol agents all along the U.S.-Mexico border. The minors say they were beaten while handcuffed, run over in ATVs, and bitten by dogs assisting agents. The complaints cover the years between 2009 and 2014. DHS followed up on many of the complaints, but did not release their findings to the public. Parts of these investigations have now been released as part of the litigation. Sarah Thompson is an attorney with the ACLU of San Diego and Imperial counties.
Yeah, so a lot of these investigations are closed. It all happens in a black box. So the individual investigations of what the results were for the individual kids, all of that happens behind closed doors, and we only know some of that because of the FOIA request.
The documents, along with audio and video interviews of agents and minors, paint a disturbing picture of the treatment of unaccompanied minors in Border Patrol custody after they're caught trying to cross the border. In one video, a teenage girl describes being made to fully undress after her arrest by a Border Patrol agent. A 2009 allegation details a Border Patrol agent putting his hand down a teenage girl's waistband. A 2014 allegation describes stripping a teenage boy down to his underwear and leaving him in a cold room for hours. And another has a Border Patrol agent hitting a teenager with a flashlight as he calls them a liar.
These documents absolutely show how the culture of this type of behavior and abuse is very deeply rooted within the agency and is definitely not a result of just a few bad apples, as they like to say.
While the documents don't cover any allegations from over the past 5 years, the ACLU says that the type of abuse alleged by CBP remains common inside the agency, especially as Central American migrants have filled Border Patrol stations over the past year. This week, KPBS broke the story of a 9-year-old held in Border Patrol custody, whose lawyer said she was not receiving medical care for a stomach ailment.
We don't have any evidence that anything has changed, and in fact, things seem to just be getting worse and worse. And so I think that one of the big functions of this batch of documents, it's very voluminous, and I don't expect anyone to go through the whole thing, but I think the long timeline of it, these records start in 2009, which is now 10 years ago, and we're still dealing with these problems today.
The ACLU hopes that journalists, politicians, lobbyists, and others will dig into the documents to learn more about the extent of the allegations. Customs and Border Protection has not yet responded to a request for comment on the documents. Max Rivlin-Adler, KPBS News.
Tense moments today inside the White House between top Democratic leaders and President Trump. It came after congressional Democrats and Republicans joined together today to denounce the administration's decision to pull U.S. troops out of Syria. And as KPBS reporter Priya Sridhar explains, the president is also facing bipartisan backlash.
Well, I certainly have told him personally as well as publicly I disagree with the decision.
Collision on Capitol Hill as fallout continues following the Trump administration's decision to pull U.S. troops out of Syria.
On this vote, the yeas are 354. The nays are 60.
Today, the House voiced its bipartisan condemnation of the action, approving a non-binding resolution by an overwhelming 354-60 vote. Following the vote, House Speaker Nancy Pelosi and Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer met with the president. But it quickly came to a halt after Trump reportedly took aim at House Speaker Nancy Pelosi, turning a meeting on turmoil in Syria into a war of its own.
He was insulting, particularly to the speaker. She kept her cool completely, but he called her a third-rate politician. He said that there are communists involved and you guys might like that. I mean, this was not a dialogue. It was sort of a diatribe.
Pelosi responded to the White House confrontation.
What we witnessed on the part of the president was a meltdown. Sad to say.
Adding the vote is what caused the president's outburst.
I think that vote, the size of the vote, more than 2-1 of the Republicans voted to oppose what the president did, probably got to the president because he was shaken up by it. And that's why we couldn't continue in the meeting, because he was just not relating to the reality of it.
Senator Schumer urged Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell to bring legislation to the Senate for a vote.
The safety of America, the safety of the Kurds are in the hands of one person, President Trump. And the best way to pressure him is a strong bipartisan resolution, such as passed the House, to undo the damage he has done.
Priya Sridhar, KPBS News.
A new bill to lower prescription drug prices was announced today by House Speaker Nancy Pelosi. It would reportedly save Medicare $345 million over 10 years, according to a preliminary analysis from the nonpartisan Congressional Budget Office. Pelosi and other Democratic leaders had been working on the plan for months. They say lowering prices is also a must because Americans can't keep paying the high costs for care.
I've seen grown men cry about how they cannot meet the needs of their families when it comes to the cost of prescription drugs and what that means in their lives.
A major part of the bill would allow Medicare to negotiate lower prices on hundreds of the most expensive drugs and apply those discounts to private health plans. Republican Senator Chuck Grassley, who is currently supporting a drug pricing bill supported by the president, praised Pelosi's plan but said any bill would likely need bipartisan support to pass. Congressman Scott Peters questioned top VA officials today about a flawed human research study conducted at the San Diego VA. iNewsSource investigative reporter Brad Racino has more.
Members of the House Committee on Veterans Affairs held a hearing today about how the country's VA medical facilities are protecting veterans from bad doctors. During the hearing, Congressman Scott Peters brought up iNewsSource's investigation into an unethical liver study conducted in part by San Diego VA Dr. Samuel Ho. The research involved collecting liver tissue, blood, stool, and urine samples from patients suffering from alcoholism and liver disease. iNewsSource found whistleblowers alleged for years that the study was dangerous and unethical.
This story presents a case, though, that could have consequences in other settings, especially for VA medical centers that conduct research on site.
Peters asked VA leaders how they handled the whistleblowers' claims. In response, Dr. Gerard Cox, a deputy undersecretary at the VA, said for the first time publicly that there was egregious research misconduct in San Diego. Cox also said a new report about what happened at the San Diego VA has been completed and is being reviewed. For KPBS, I'm iNewsSource investigative reporter Brad Racino.
iNewsSource is an independently funded nonprofit partner of KPBS. Federal officials confirmed that a body clogged the pumps in the Tijuana River, leading to more than 14 million gallons of sewage spilling across the U.S.-Mexico border. Officials say the spill started Sunday night and continued into Monday evening. Mexican officials say cleanup crews found the body trapped inside one of the intake screens of a major pump station. It's not known who the person is or how they got trapped inside. Good news for those who live in La Jolla or like to visit there. Construction workers have completed the road stabilization project along the always busy Coast Boulevard. It was done to protect against a potential collapse due to the sea cave below. The $3.2 million emergency project began in August and finished weeks ahead of schedule. County supervisors today unanimously approved a roadmap to increase the use of electric vehicles, including adding more charging stations throughout the region. The goal, to reduce greenhouse gases and improve air quality. The plan also calls for promoting and providing incentives for county employees to own electric vehicles. According to the county, the plan has an ultimate cost of roughly $21 million. A new study gives a possible clue behind the dramatic increase in lung injury cases related to vaping and e-cigarettes. This as San Diego approves a ban on selling vaping devices, and another state announces a new investigation into e-cigarette companies. Kelly Smoot has the very latest in this report from Washington.
We are not waiting for the federal government to get its act together.
Florida becoming the latest state to announce it is looking into potential problems with e-cigarettes and vaping companies.
Today I am announcing an expansive investigation of over 20 vaping companies doing business in the state of Florida.
Taking a different approach than Missouri Governor Mike Parson, who announced a statewide campaign Tuesday to discourage youth vaping.
This is truly an epidemic, and we must take action to protect the young people of our state.
But all trying to find ways to reduce the use of e-cigarettes and vaping devices among young people.
Nicotine has created a culture of addicted teens.
This as the principal deputy director of the Centers for Disease Control testified on Capitol Hill that its investigation into serious lung illness continues around the clock.
What we know so far about this epidemic is that it's striking young people.
Saying that more than half the cases of serious lung disease that have been reported to the CDC are among those under the age of 25.
No single product, brand, substance, or additive has been identified in all cases so far.
A new study released today in the journal Cancer Prevention Research suggests a possible connection between the chemicals propylene glycol and glycerin and increased inflammation of the lungs. But researchers acknowledge that more research needs to be done. Kelly Smoot, KPBS News.
Not a surprise to many locally, but overall September was a scorcher, and that's according to National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration last month, tied with 2015 as the hottest September on record. And the average temp across the U.S. was 68 degrees. And scientists also found wetter than normal conditions in parts of the West Coast, Northern Plains, and Great Lakes. The South, however, had record dry conditions. And today was the warmest day of the week, but in just a few days, Santa Ana winds and high temps will return. Meteorologist Regina Miller has our forecast.
As we take a look here at the satellite and radar, we've had an area of high pressure situated over the interior southwest, and so that has led for our Wednesday to a weak offshore flow. which means we've had the warmest day here of the week. Now, as we go into tonight, 61 degrees, increasing clouds around for tonight, and our temperatures across the area. Oceanside's at 54 degrees. We'll have some increasing late night clouds there, as well as in Chula Vista. In Borrego Springs, a mostly clear night with a temperature of 63 degrees. We'll drop into the upper 40s in Mount Laguna. Looking ahead to Thursday, we've got a front dropping southward, so Thursday through Saturday, we'll see occasional gusty westerly winds in some of the mountains out ahead of this, and it's not going to be as warm. So our temperature for Chula Vista for tomorrow is 71 degrees. San Diego's back down to 72, and in Oceanside, 74 degrees. We'll top out at 91 in Borrego Springs. Early next week, we do have some concerns here as a Santa Ana wind event expected to redevelop. The length and strength is still uncertain, but we are going to be dealing with that low relative humidity, so we have the increased fire risk once again. So along the coast for tomorrow, we have a high of 74. Low clouds give way to sunshine. Partly sunny on Friday. We'll start to heat things up then again as we head towards the weekend and into early next week when those winds will pick up as well. Inland areas on Thursday, we have a high of 77 degrees, not as warm. Sunshine and nice on Friday. We'll heat it up to the upper 80s to 90 degrees for Sunday into Monday. In the mountain areas, sunshine and breezy, so we will keep the gusty breeze around for Thursday and Friday in the mountains. Our temperatures will gradually start to warm up just a bit there. And then in the desert locations, 91 degrees for our Thursday, and we'll actually see our temperatures coming down a little bit as we head towards the weekend. I'm Regina Miller, KPBS News.
As the holiday travel season draws near, many of us may have to fly to see relatives. And it's not just the long lines to worry about. It's also the concern of getting sick when you fly. Reporter Reed Binion has some helpful tips to protect yourself in tonight's Health Minute.
An airline cabin can double as a flying petri dish when not maintained properly. The enclosed space, recirculated air, and large numbers of people make planes prime breeding grounds for bacteria. The tray table, the place where passengers rest their food, was by far the most contaminated surface tested. It was followed by the overhead air vent, the lavatory flush button, and the seatbelt buckle. So what can travelers do to help fend off illness above cruising altitude? Carry antibacterial wipes and hand sanitizer. Wipe down tray tables, seatbelt buckles, armrests, and seatback pockets when you sit down. Hydrate. Because the air in the plane's cabin is recirculated, it contains less humidity than most people are used to. Choose a window seat. People who sit by the window have the smallest risk of infection because they have the least contact with other passengers. For today's Health Minute, I'm Reed Binion.
For parents, it can feel like an uphill battle, keeping tabs on your kids' online activity and behavior. But there are ways designed to give mom and dad help in their daily efforts to monitor what their children are consuming online. The Wall Street Journal outlines some of the easy and quick steps you can take. Now, first, before you buy software to help, take a look at the settings on the devices. Common Apple and Amazon devices, along with devices running Android and Chrome software, let you block explicit content. And the Journal points out those settings even let you set a fixed gadget bedtime. Apple will even roll out an upgrade to let parents manage their child's contacts, as well as give them the ability to control who they communicate with. And experts advise starting with stricter controls when your child first gets a device. Then, as they demonstrate an ability to maturely handle the technology, you can increase the freedom. In addition to using settings to help control a child's tech time, there are third-party services available as well. Bark is one. It charges a fee to monitor online activity. For a full rundown of maximizing the settings on your child's device and other tech tips for parents, check out the full article at WSJ.com.
Here in San Diego, an old tradition is being used as a new solution for refugee teens. The group works to maintain a garden in North Park, and then they sell what they grow. KPBS City Heights reporter Ebony Monet shows us how the program is helping to cultivate confidence.
On 30th Street near University Avenue, there's a patch of green between traffic and a 96-year-old church. It's work by refugee youth as they learn about irrigation, pruning, and soil fertility.
My name is Maclay Sue, and I went to Crawford High School.
I'm in 10th grade. I'm 6 years old.
It's Moo's second week on the job at the youth farm, home base for the International Rescue Committee's Youth Farm Works in Cafe program. Moo and her family are Karen refugees from Burma.
I have 3 brothers and 1 sister. I came here with my family.
She says opportunities such as this didn't exist there.
I think 3 should be no problem. Might be able to do 4, but I think we might want to save it because on Saturday we have a big day of people coming through.
The urban farm is part of a 10-week paid internship program where low-income refugee and immigrant teens earn a small stipend in a bus pass. IRC program director Angie Mays says most importantly, the teens learn skills to help sustain themselves.
A lot of our refugee youth have families that are, struggling to pay rent, so some of the kids just want to work and help mom and dad.
The teens also give garden tours and on Saturdays run an outdoor cafe. The Youth Farm Works program director, affectionately called Farmer Robbie, says these interactions harvest confidence.
We are not necessarily training them in terms of a job training to be farmers. I mean, as a farm fan, I'm not opposed to that, but at the same time, it's very much like the soft skills that come with recognizing that it's a loud intersection and vocally modulating your voice in terms of an older person or younger person, or working with cash handling skills.
For Moo, she says the communicative parts of the job are difficult, but she knows they're needed to achieve her goals.
I want to go to college. My dream college was at ACLU. I want to become a teacher or doctor. I'm still thinking.
Program organizers are in talks with local restaurant owners, and they tell me the next step is to hopefully get some of this produce onto area menus. Reporting in North Park, Ebony Monet, KPBS News.
La Jolla Playhouse kicks off another Without Walls festival tomorrow. It showcases 22 site-specific works of art, works at Arts District Liberty Station through the weekend. Local and international companies will participate. KPBS arts reporter Beth Accomando highlights 2 local artists who explain what the WOW experience is like.
My name is Molly Perrier. I'm the executive director for Malashok Dance, and we're here getting ready for Without a Net, which is a big circus-themed production. It's an immersive, interactive experience that involves dance and acrobatics and all sorts of different apparatus, and all of this is part of La Jolla Playhouse's Without Walls Festival. We are big fans of Without Walls, and just seeing and being inspired over the years by the different types of projects and partnerships that they've created inspired us to get outside of our norm. John Malashok is well known as a choreographer. He's been here for 32 years, but this gave us an opportunity to get people outside our normal dance world to come in and be part of this project. So it pushed us to reach out into the community, to get to know the circus community here, which has been really, really fun, and get people on board like a contortionist that we never would have worked with before. So it's really expanded how we view performers and gotten us outside of our dance community a little bit, which is really exciting for us. And just having it run by a theater company and someone who produces, an organization that produces theater, has also pushed us to make this really theatrical and have speaking parts and have people that interact with the audience in a way that we normally wouldn't, and break that wall with the audience as a dance company.
Hi, I'm David Israel Reynoso. I'm a scenic and costume designer, as well as the founder and creator of Óptica Moderna, which is an immersive theatrical company here in San Diego, working on a new piece for the Without Walls Festival. So Las Quinceañeras is an immersive show in which audience members enter 2 at a time. You're outfitted with some sort of optical gear, and you enter into what I kind of like to call an analog virtual reality, in which you do enter kind of a new dimension, if you will, in much in the same way that you do when you enter and put on sort of VR goggles. But what you're seeing is something that's completely analog in the sense that there's nothing manufactured digitally. But you're still entering into a realm that is imagined and very much focused in through a lens that we're hoping for you to zero in on for the story. My hope is that in some ways this piece leans into maybe being categorically classified as a work of horror. But I think in a not sort of the way that you expect it. I think it's more so in the way that falling in love is actually terrifying. Leaving behind a season of your life is really scary. Embarking on a new one is actually really quite frightening. Those are like great sort of monsters in our own psyche. And so my hope is that the tension and that sense of courage that it takes to embark into a new season is harnessed within the piece, and that it is a bit unnerving, and that tension is captured in your experience of Las Quinceañeras.
La Jolla Playhouse's WOW Festival begins tomorrow and runs through October 20th at Liberty Station's Art District. Tune in tomorrow for part 2 of Beth's WOW coverage. And you can find tonight's stories on our website, kpbs.org/evening edition. Thank you for joining us. Have a great evening.